What is up, crypto ninjas? It's Saturday morning, I'm Wingnut, and that must mean it's time to look at some crypto prices. It's been another one of them relatively flat weeks, we'll call it. So before we get into all of that, just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money. You need to make sure you're doing your own research. I'm just some guy telling you what he thinks is going to go on. But before you invest any money, make sure you agree with what you're doing. So we're going to start, as we always do, with Bitcoin. Let's just jump over here to the weekly chart. We'll start with this just because it's what we might as well do. We'll go ahead and hide all my lines for now. So as you can see, the week itself has been relatively flat in comparison. I mean, we've traded between 32,000 and 35,000, give or take. So it's been a relatively narrow range. We're pushed up into the upper block of that now as the week's coming down. So that's good to see that we've at least regained some of what we lost through the week. So let's jump back here to the daily charts. The one that I always find is the best indications of the shorter term things that are going on. I'll go ahead and bring all my lines back into play. Earlier this week, I thought, maybe we were seeing ourselves having a little bit of a upward wedge. That was clearly not the case because we dumped out below it the next day after I made that prediction. So let's go ahead and we'll remove this old wedge right off the lines here. And we'll see that we are still trading in what I basically called my box between 30,000 and 36.5. We haven't broken out above the top of it. I mean, we touched it here back on the 29th of June. So today's the 10th, so a little over a week ago we touched that line, and we haven't quite gotten back up to it since. We also haven't dumped to the very bottom of this range since then either, so that's also a good sign because we were dumping down there quite a bit before that. So prices at least seem like they're starting to push up to the upper part of this range, which would be a good sign as that continues along, like I said, until the end of July is when I think we're going to start seeing us break up above 36.5 and really staying there. Like we might tip up above it before then, but I really don't see us being able to take and maintain that line for a few weeks yet. But I'm also starting to think that we might not dump as low as like the $25,000 range, which I originally predicted seeing us dumping all the way down to there, but I don't see that quite as clear anymore. I mean, there's still the possibility of it happening, but I don't see the trends there making me think that it's an inevitability now. So that's good. Things seem to be stabilizing, if anything. Sorry about that, had to make a little cut there. So earlier in the week, I mean, we did tip down below 33,000 there for a little bit, but we pulled right back up above it. I mean, we're having a little bit of a downtrend here currently on the day, pushing back down, but we came up and we touched ourselves on the 20-day EMA, and we're kind of getting rejected off of that. But I don't see a whole lot of down pressure. There's not a whole lot of sell pressure anymore. I mean, we can see that the volumes are falling off. Where we had the big major dump off, we had some medium volumes scaling up into some higher volumes, and then the recovery here caused a little bit of volume, but it's been tapering off ever since. So the volatility seems to be getting sucked out of the market, which is a good sign. We want it to stabilize so that way we can start getting it to push back up, because while it's in a big volatile state, it's going to be hard to really get it to trend in one direction as we've been seeing. It's been a lot of up and down, mostly down. I mean, we've been pushing down lower and lower, but we seem to be consolidating, and like I said, I'm thinking we're gonna see a few more weeks of this more or less sideways action. I might even say we might not drop below 32K, but I'm not quite ready to make a line there yet. It's not quite well tested really anywhere. So I'm still gonna say 30,000 to about 36.5 is what I'm thinking we're gonna see for the next few weeks before we start breaking out. Let's jump into the old Bitcoin dominance chart here just to see what's going on there. And as you can see, we've started to reverse on that. It was coming down. The alts were getting a little bit juicy, but we've since in the last few days started pretty good, significant reversal on that. So we'll have to see what goes on there. I think alts are going to do all right once the market recovers, but for right now, it's definitely seems like alt season's getting squeezed out a little bit from where it was. If we scroll this back out, way back in May, Bitcoin dominance was below 40%. and we're back up to, well, right now we're at 46%. So Bitcoin dominance is starting to reassert itself. So we should be cautious of, throwing a whole bunch of money in alts right now. But it also could be a good sign that it might be time to buy some alts because they could pump later. But, unless the alt is very good, I wouldn't be throwing a whole lot of money in it. Like if it's one of the alts that I talk about, because I personally think those ones are going to do good. But the other ones, hit or miss. I mean, there's a lot of good alts out there, but there's also a lot of shit coins. So your results may vary. But there's really not a lot to say here with Bitcoin. I'm expecting it to do much of the same as it's been doing, trucking along for a few weeks sideways. So that's going to do it for the old Bitcoin review. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin's little brother, Ethereum, which it started off pretty good in the week. It pushed right up past where I figured my ceiling was there at 22,500. Pushed right up past it, but it got hung up at the 50-day EMA and then took itself a nice solid push back down right into the middle of, or I guess what the bottom of my range would have been. No, I said this would have been the bottom of my range, 1900. That's where I put my soft line at, sorry. So right down into like the middle of my range. Back where I figured it was going to be. I got a little excited here that maybe Ethereum might be, doing a little bit of something, but I was wrong and it came right back down. So again, I'm expecting this is going to be the trend that we're going to see for basically the half the summer up until the end of July, early August, and then we're going to start seeing things moving up. We might see, a little bit more price action right around here. Let's go ahead and we'll make this one bolder because I think this is going to be that line, and we're going to make this one's bolder too because that's going to be that line. So this is the range I think we're going to see most of our price action in for the remainder of the month, between 1900 and 2250. Same as Bitcoin, we might see, like we did here, a little dip up above. I'm less likely to think we're going to see dips below, but we might. I mean, the market is still somewhat volatile. Again, like with Bitcoin, we see the volumes are coming down on it, and the ATR, I mean, it's showing us that the volatility is coming way down too. Like the price differences on the day are quite significantly lower than they were like during the crash back at the end of May, where we scaled way down. So volatility levels are coming down. It's good to see. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this sideways action in here until the end of July. There's not a lot to say here. The markets aren't doing too much, and they're just following the patterns that I kind of assumed they did with, a couple little outlier points like we saw there, which got me excited. And I probably didn't need to get excited because I probably should have just trusted that I knew it was going to go on. But again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm somewhat new to this game, so, take everything I say with a grain of salt because I got excited here, but I didn't do anything there with money or anything. But, I got excited that maybe this was a sign that Ethereum might pump, but it wasn't. Again, much the same. Sideways, end of summer, pop back up. It's going to do it for Ethereum. Not a lot to say there. Before we get into the next crypto, I just want to say if you're not already trading or otherwise want to switch to Binance, it's a pretty good platform for trading. It's got all the various different markets, spot markets, futures markets. You do margin trading, all that fun stuff. Plus all the other ways that you can make money in crypto. They've got staking pools and mining pools, and they've got ICO launches and all sorts of other things. And if you use the link that I'm going to stick down in the description, you're going to save yourself a bit on your trading fees. So that's always good. So if you're going to switch to Binance, jump on that link and save yourself a little money while you're doing it. Next, we're going to talk about Polkadot, which actually is following along my wedge that I drew. I drew this the same day as I drew the Bitcoin one. On my website, I do price updates throughout the week, so you might want to check that out if you're interested in seeing what I think through the week. The link to my website's down in the description. Every couple of days, I'll post an update on what I think's going on there. So I drew this wedge, and it's actually following it. I don't think it means that much because the wedge is going to complete about the end of the month when I figure that the prices are going to start moving up. So I think that this is more or less a sign showing me that the market is kind of going to do what I think it's doing. It's going to take until the end of July before we start seeing any real action because it's consolidating up in here. So this is the crypto that's really showing me a lot of the way the market is going. Because the other ones, the volatility is pretty high, but Polkadot, it's relatively chill in that regards. So seeing it follow this wedge is pretty nice. I like seeing that. I mean, right now we're at the bottom part of it, and we could break below it, and I could totally fail this wedge like I failed the one that I put on Bitcoin. But so far anyway, it's been following along pretty good. So if it keeps doing that, then, you know, once we get up at near the end of July and the price is pushed up against this line as hard as it can, then it's got a lot of pressure to want to go up. So let's hope that continues. I'm gonna hedge myself though, and I'm gonna say let's make these the lines that I think we're gonna call the range, because, you know, I do think we're still in the sideways summer, and it's very possible that we're gonna break out of this wedge and come back down into this lower part. But I think the safe range for me to say where I think the price action is gonna mostly go will be between $13 and $17. And again, you know, we might push up past that and then come back down like we did there, which is just you know, a good solid test of that line to show that it, you know, it did put a good lot of resistance. I should probably even color this red for now, because it has definitely given us a good solid resistance there. We've tested it back here, we tested it again there, and we tested it again there with a good test where we pushed up and got rejected right back down below. So $17 is definitely a good solid resistance line right now, and $13 as a support line is not as well tested, but I think the support line, at least until we break below it, is going to be this wedge, which, you know, we've tested 1, 2, 3, and 4 times that it's tested this wedge. So it's a pretty strongly tested indicator right here that the price is consolidating to the top part of this range. So might be interesting to watch what's going to go on there, but like I said, we might see some more action down into the lower part of this range. But overall, I don't see any reason why Polkadot's going to fail. It's doing a lot of good things, so I think we're just going to see it push along and then follow the rest of the market when things start pumping up again, and we'll see what goes on there. Once we start seeing prices up in this range, and especially once we start taking this $20 price back, that's when we'll start knowing that things are ready to go for the good old Polkadot. So that's gonna be it for this one. Like I said, not a lot of updates. Everything's just kind of flat and doing what I expected it to do. So next up, we are going to take a look at Polygon, which again, doing a lot of what I figured it would do. Playing a lot of price action between the dollar range and $1.25 range. Actually, it came up and it bounced off the 20-day EMA right there a couple of days ago, but I mean, I don't think it's going to drop too much below $1. It tested it pretty well there, and there. So this dollar line seems like a pretty well tested support line. I also don't think we're going to see us push back up below or above $1.25 until the market starts pumping again. Like I said, I think it's going to be end of July, early August before that happens. But right now we've tested that $1.25 line here and again here, so it seems like it's putting up a pretty good resistance line. If the EMAs were still above it, I would expect that we would have went up and tested there and came back down, but the EMAs kind of came in and are squeezing it a little bit lower. So we're playing in the bottom part of this range. I don't see that as being a problem. I know a lot of the other cryptos are starting to play in the top part of the range, but I mean, Polygon is pretty big and it's doing a lot of big things, so I don't see it just failing. It's able to stand on its own. It's just suffering right now, but I think long term we're going to see it push back up into the upper part of the range and then start taking off again once we can break that $1.25 line and start making some positive moves again. Then things will be happy. But I'm not concerned with the fact that we're low, and I'm not concerned with the fact that we're sideways, because this is exactly what I predicted is happening. So it's just playing out. The market's doing what it's gonna do, and it's doing kind of what I figured it would. So not a lot to say here. It's just going. So that's gonna do it for the short and sweet Polygon review. Expected sideways between $1 and $1.25. And as usual, my favorite altcoin is going to bring up the rear position, because, you know, I like to end on my favorite. And that is, of course, Cardano's ADA token, which, again, doing exactly what I kind of figured it would do, trading between $1.25 and $1.50, which, again, not really a concern of mine, because ADA's got a lot of strong growth ahead, especially once all the stuff on the test net actually goes to the main net. Then I think the price of ADA is really going to pump up. It's the one that I'm banking on the most to give me the best returns this year for the rest of the bull market, because I think it's from where it is to where it's going to be at the end of the year is probably going to be the biggest gains out of all my positions and my holdings on what I'm doing, which I don't really play in the Ethereum game because I don't want to pay Ethereum gas prices. So I know that there's probably way better growth that I could get if I was playing on some of those tokens, but I'm not paying, $5 to make a simple swap or whatever, because that's ridiculous to me. I play on the Binance Smart Chain and then on native ones, so gas prices are a big thing for me. So I'm not playing with a whole lot of money in the market, but ADA's great. It's the one I think is going to do the best. Again, it bounced off the $1.50 line here back on the 4th of July. And I mean, it did come down below $1.25 here, all the way down to $1 back on the 22nd of July. I don't know if it's going to necessarily do that again. If it does, then, it might be a good time to buy some ADA. But I don't think it's going to really get down quite that low again. I think it's found its range in here between $1.25 and $1.50, and we're going to see this sideways action until the end of July, and then we'll break the $1.50 line and start moving our way back up towards all-times high. Because I mean, we've been up to, what was it, 250? 250 was the all-time high. Let's fix this line. I don't know why it's not on a... Well, actually, that's the all-time high. We should probably set it to what it was. 247. Let's go put it at 247 was the all-time high. So, between here and the all-time high is almost a 2x already. So I think Cardano is going to have a fair bit of growth to run for anyone that's holding it. So for now, I think it's just going to go sideways. End of July, we'll break $1.50 and then we'll go. As I've said, not a lot of updates to talk about in the markets. Not a lot of new figures and numbers. It's just kind of sideways. So that's gonna do it for Cardano. And that's going to do it for me for this week. I know it's probably a shorter video because not a lot to talk about. Everything's just kind of sideways and doing its thing. But if you have made it this far, I want to go ahead and throw a like on that video. I'd really appreciate it because it helps the YouTube algorithm, helps me start growing this channel because, I'm pretty small right now. If you're not subscribed, then go ahead and subscribe. I do one of these every Saturday, one of these videos where I talk about the price actions. Over on my website, of course, I post every weekday with some kind of article about blockchains or some crypto or how to trade, lots of cool stuff going on there. And I also do regular updates, every couple of days on what the prices are doing. So if you want to get my input beyond just these weekly videos, my website would be the place to do that. I also, of course, have a newsletter which goes out every Friday morning, which talks about some of the stuff going on in the crypto news and some general stuff like that, which is going to be linked down below as well. So I'm going to shut the fuck up, get out of here, and have yourselves a good week.